Hi and welcome to another episode of Online Course Secrets TV. So today we're going to take a bit of a different route. I'm going to share with you very personal experiences of mine. So if you are in the position that you're really struggling with your motivation, you don't know if you really want to create an online course, maybe you're looking at different options, you're debating back and forward, maybe you're struggling and you're simply not sure if it's worth it, then this episode is for you. I'm going to share with you what I did, how I decided that I was going to succeed with my online courses, with my online business, and how everything just became so much easier after that, and how I turned that decision into actual actions, what I did to be able to quit my full-time job and do what I had decided to do. So before we get into all that fun stuff, I would love to interact with you guys. It's so much more fun. So feel free to say hi, maybe give me a like, put a comment, just let me know if you're here. And of course, if you have any questions throughout, I'd love to answer them. And maybe if you want me to clarify, I'll do that as well. Okay, so with that said, I'm gonna share kind of my experiences, my path, and how I managed to quit my job and to go all out on my business, how I made everything work pretty much, and why the mindset is pretty much the foundation for getting out of this hurdle of lack of motivation, etc., etc. And then, great, Kingsley saying, great to see you, mate. Hey, Kingsley, hey. And then I'll share with you how I can help you out after this episode. Sound good? Perfect. So, I'm going to start this by sharing something that I learned from a close friend of mine. So it was many years ago, and he was just so extremely disciplined, and he was exercising every day and eating right and just going through something that for the rest of us looked really hard. But for him, it was like he was unflinching. It was like it looked so easy for him, and he wasn't battling with his motivation, etc. He was just going for it. So, hi Tinkuta, hey. So glad you changed the time, thanks. Yeah, we changed the time so we can maybe share it with more people in the US, right? So that's the whole idea here. So basically, I was too curious. I had to ask him, how can you stay so committed? How can you be so disciplined? How can you do this so effortlessly, you know? And then he shared this with me. Well, he said, so we were talking about like losing weight. So he said, well, the reason that people are struggling with this is because they think they have a choice. Right? As long as you think you have a choice, then you're going back and forward in your head. Am I gonna do it? Am I not gonna do it? Should I keep going? Should I not keep going? And this constant mind battle that's going on, that's draining you of all your energy and really taking your focus away from what you should be focusing on, which is in that context, maybe what should I eat for dinner? At what time is it? How can I, improve what I'm doing, etc. So he said it's really about understanding the concept of a decision. So a decision means that you're taking yourself out of the picture. It means that you no longer have the ability to go back, right? It means that you have decided. So basically, as soon as you decide to do something, you can actually start celebrating that you already accomplished it, because you know that you're going to reach your goal, because you're never going to stop, right? There's simply no question about it anymore, right? So does that make sense so far? Great. Brendan, I think this live could be relevant to me. Yeah, I think so too. Awesome. Actually, it's one of the reasons why I did this live, Brendan, after our conversation. So yeah, I wanted to share this. So this really stuck with me, this concept of what my friend told me is that the problem that everyone's doing is that they're giving themselves too much freedom, right? They are they still are giving themselves the option to go out on their decision, and therefore they never really go all in, and they never really commit in the way that's necessary to do something hard. Whenever you're committing to doing something hard, you have to decide to do it, meaning that you have to basically take away all your options to fail. Okay? So, great. Awesome. So I want to share with you 3 distinct periods of my life, a bit fast, right? When I decided to do something, and how my experiences is that every time I decided, with the true meaning of the word, it ended up all right, right? I reached my goals. So the first time I decided, like I can really, really remember that I decided to do something, is when I walked into the bathroom and I looked in the mirror and I found myself being very, very overweight. So I was weighing at that time about 86 kilos, which is far more than my regular 70, right? And this had always been a part of my life. I had always been overweight, and I had different strategies and coping mechanisms to go around this fact and try to solve it without having to exercise and eat well. But this time I couldn't do it. I had gained too much weight, and all my strategies like holding in my gut and standing in a specific angle, etc., it just didn't work anymore. And it just hit me, and it hurt so bad. I really broke down. I started crying and everything. It was a really like a life-changing moment for me to really deeply realize that what I had done to myself and what kind of person I was in that moment, like how I had given up on myself pretty much. So at that point in time, I decided that I was never going to weigh more than this. And I decided more specifically on 2 things. I decided that until I reached my goal weight, which at that time was 65 kilos, I was not going. I was going to. I had I decided right on the spot there what I was going to eat. Right, it was just basically salad and lean meats, pretty much. And then I also decided that until I reached this weight, I was going to run like 3 kilometers every day. Right. So it was a decision, right? I took myself out of the picture. I couldn't fail with this anymore because I took away my choice to do anything other than this. Until I had reached this goal, then, I couldn't think about like if I was going to gain the weight back or etc. I just knew that this was going to happen. And it was quite amazing because like as overwhelming as like all that sorrow and that pain was, like an equal amount of joy entered me because I knew that I was already, in a sense, I was already weighing 65 kilos. Like I had already lost those 20 kilos because I knew that I wasn't going to go back on this, right? I knew that this was going to work. And if it didn't, I was going to adapt, right? So said and done, I just did what had to be done, right? So basically, in the shape I was in, running 3 kilometers, I was exhausted. I was dead. I pretty much fainted when I got home. Every day I got home, I got into the bathtub and fell asleep pretty much. So it was an intense period. And, I wouldn't, I'm not an expert in diets and that kind of stuff. But maybe I wouldn't recommend doing it the way I did. But I lost the 20 kilos. I lost 22 kilos actually in 5 weeks. So that might sound pretty crazy, but it's really like the result of your mindset being in order, right? So after I had that experience, I knew that whenever in my life, if I really want to get something done, all I have to do is decide to do it. And then I'm going to do what it takes to get it done. Okay. Feel free to say something. Dennis, cool. Point of no return. Give yourself no option to return. Exactly. So I'm not saying that this is going to work for everyone. I'm just sharing here my experiences of what worked for me, right? So another point in time where I really, really decided to do something was when I was, when I lost the weight. It wasn't because I wanted to get healthier. It was more because I wanted to basically not be fat, right? So I didn't have that sense of, being healthy, etc. So years later, I started to smoke. I was smoking for like a year, 2 years, something like that. And, I always knew that I was going to have to quit, but I just really, really loved smoking, like the sensation. It was really my kind of drug, right? And I can really clearly remember when I decided that I was going to stop and how I was going to stop. And the way it worked was I was just looking for that thing to really, really give me that extra motivation. And, be careful what you wish for. Let me just put it like that. Because what happened was that as I was kind of asking for this, my dad died. And he had been smoking for like 40 years. So he had a stroke, actually. Like, of course, I can't know that it's directly correlated to his smoking. But he had a lot of issues and health issues. And, I'm sure that the smoking for 40 years didn't exactly help, right? So what ended up happening is that he had a stroke and he was laying in the hospital. And I went to the hospital to see him, and he was like in an induced coma, right? So it was, it's a sight that you don't want to see, right? You don't want to see your parent in that position. But at that time, I had already started to learn about personal development and how to turn everything into a positive, something constructive, right? So I saw my dad there and how destroyed he was, and that he wasn't gonna make it, right? So what was the most constructive thing that I could do there is I just took like a mental snapshot of that picture of him laying there with all the tubes and all that stuff, right? And, true or not, I connected that with smoking, right? So I decided right then and there that whenever I see a cigarette, I am going to connect it to this picture. Whenever I see a cigarette, this is what I'm going to think about. This is the result of smoking, right? And of course, I don't know if it's exactly true or not, but the thing about this is that it doesn't matter. What matters is if it works, right? So I just connected that picture really, really intensely, which made me not really enjoy my cigarettes anymore, right? So it was quite easy to stop smoking after that. Now, the unintended side effect of that is that that connection is so strong in my mind now that I just can't stop making that connection. So even if I'm walking on the street and I smell smoke, right? That vision comes up straight away, regardless of if I want it or not. So maybe that's good, maybe that's bad, but basically I can't see anyone smoke without thinking about my dad dying anymore, So that's a bit of a different approach. Might not be the most constructive, who knows? All I know is that it worked for me. I stopped smoking, and actually it made me stop wanting to stop drinking as well. So I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do like any of that stuff anymore. But again, the point here is that I decided, right? I like that habit needed to be built up. So I consciously decided that until this connection is made in my mind, I'm going to, every time I look at a cigarette, every time a cigarette is in near me, right? I'm going to connect it directly to this horrible, horrible picture that I have in my mind, right? So good or bad, I don't know. I just know that it worked for me, right? Okay. Awesome. Oh, so many watching. I'm glad. Awesome. Do you have any questions so far? I'm going to maybe go into how you can apply this for you now. Okay, so the final thing I want to share here about deciding on something is when I decided that I was going to thrive in my life by helping other people. Right? And that just happened to be through online courses. It could have been something else, but I decided right then and there that this is the way for me to live. This is how I want to live my life. Nothing else gives me as much pleasure as thriving by helping others. And that happened when I was living abroad, actually. I had... Basically, I was really, really tired of Sweden, where I live, right? I felt it was really hard to connect with people, etc. And I moved to South Korea for 2 years. And I could really follow my passion there because I was into video games and people were really playing there. I started my YouTube channel, and Just finding that alignment where I could do exactly what I wanted to do and at the same time help other people. Other people were really, really happy that I was there and I was sharing all this amazing content, etc. I can't pinpoint the exact moment it happened, but at some point there, it just clicked for me that like this is what makes us really come alive, is when we do exactly what it is we want, and as a result of that, we're also helping the people we truly care about. So when those two things connect, something magical happens, and you don't need motivation anymore. It's kind of like breathing. It's going to be really, really hard for you not to do it, right? Someone is going to have to force you not to do it, right? And that just took the avenue of creating online courses for me, right? So I have never, thought about should I do online courses or not. As soon as I realized that this is the way to share information and to charge people for it, and where you can thrive by helping other people, motivation was never a part of it. I never had that battle where I had to think if I was on the right track with online courses or something like that. So it became super, super easy, right? Because I wasn't, the hard part is not creating the online course. The hard part is that inner battle where you're going back and forward and you're not all in and you haven't decided. That's my experience, at least. Emmanuel is asking, what do you suggest for the best way to write my content for the online course? I want to do it myself. Okay. So Emmanuel, the whole idea, the philosophy that I go with and that I teach my students is that we want to create it in direct response to what people are actually asking for. So the best way to write your content is to not write it. It is to actually start asking your audience what they want. So what are they struggling with? What do they need help with? Where are they stuck? What are they looking for, etc. So you're going to create this transformation that you turn into a framework, a method. Once you have that framework, like the steps of how to go from where your audience is to where they want to go. So you might have 3 phases and 3 steps in each phase. So you have 9 steps in total. Basically, you have created your curriculum. Now you can use this framework to create free content or paid content, whatever it is. But as much as you can, try not to sit down and try to figure out your own content. It should always be in direct response to what people are asking for, right? So if someone is asking, how do I do this? Then you answer that with your experiences, with your knowledge, or with your research. So it means that you go out and you figure out how to actually do it. You put together a package and then you sell them the shortcuts so they don't have to go and do the research. So that's the method, the philosophy I go with, and what has worked for me. Awesome. Okay, so let's talk a bit about how to actually take your decision and turn it into something real. Because if you just decide something but you don't act upon it, then it's not going to do you much good. So the first thing to really see here is that we live in a society that values, it doesn't value the things that are gonna be needed of you to be excellent. If it did, then everyone would be excellent, right? But this society that we're around, it teaches you how to be normal, how to be average, how to be just good enough, right? So the way you can really see that is that people around us, etc., and society at whole, it has this fascination with knowledge and being smart and being wise and being having an informed decision. That's really important, right? So we're literally living in an information age, and I don't just mean that in the technological sense, but in a philosophical sense as well, in a value sense. We think that it's good to know more, right? But to really get things done, you have to stop thinking, right? So the best soccer players out there, they are at their best because they are acting and they are in flow and they are not thinking. They're doing. They're kind of like being rather than thinking. So it's kind of like our minds are like, it's the tip of the iceberg where we can handle and process information and etc. And everything else, like the subconscious and everything, it's just doing It's just acting based on previous habits, right? And basically how you have adapted to your environment, pretty much. So just understanding this very fact that you stop valuing knowledge and information, etc., and start valuing results, start valuing actions, start valuing that you're trying, that you're doing your best, etc., that you're going for it. That is going to make a huge difference in the kind of choices you make. You're going to stop procrastinating by trying to learn free stuff, etc., etc. You're going, instead of like, okay, what's the shortest path I can take here to go from where I am to where I want to go, and how can I say no to everything else that's not a part of this plan, right? Being instead of thinking, how to be. You're asking. I'm not sure what you mean there. Please clarify, Maria Paz. Emmanuel is saying, thank you very much. You're so welcome. Okay, so that's the first thing. In order for you to turn your decision into real life results, you have to start valuing results. Stop valuing information and being wise and smart, etc., etc. So I have a very clear memory when I was smaller, actually. I was watching TV, and there was this really, really old movie or series or something. I don't know what it was. I was very small, but I remember it was about this man that was, it was this kid that was in school and he couldn't read. So all the other kids were like making fun of him, and everyone was saying that he was gonna fail in life and that everything's was gonna go to like really bad for him, etc., etc., etc. But he just didn't believe them, right? So instead of staying in school and struggling with it, he just dropped out of school. I think it was a true story, actually, if I remember correctly. So he dropped out of school and started his own business, like when he was 10 or something, because he just wanted to actually do something, right? Instead of being in that environment where they were like propping him full of information that he wasn't going to need, right? So that just made an impression on me at a very early age for some reason. I didn't understand it at the time, but it's kind of like that saying, like people with good grades end up working for people that don't, right? So people with good grades end up working for people with bad grades, and that's I think that's a part of the like cutting through the bullshit, like the mystery, right? Is that you start walking your own path, and that you're not so concerned about being normal and being a part of the norm and doing what you're told, etc. But you're actually being more true to yourself and actually walking your own path, regardless of what people around you are saying and thinking, and you're basically just going for it, right? Tinkuta is saying, so happy to have you as my teacher, coach and guide. Awesome, Tinkuta. Yeah, I love being a part of your journey as well. That's awesome. Maria Paz is saying, stop asking about it, just going for the doing. That is what I meant. Being in the move instead of being stuck in thinking on how you do. What do you suggest to charge for a mini course of my best module? Mini course, how many modules? Emmanuel, let me answer that later on, since it's a bit off topic with the presentation, but I'll get back to you, I promise. Let's see here, and we got SARS Lant is saying, I just quit my job and now I have so much time to focus on finishing my course. I hope my course will be successful. Thanks for this video. Awesome, SARS. Go for it. Yeah, just go for it. It's congratulations on being free. That's, you're not free, but you are free. It's really funny, right? You're free to do exactly what you want, right? Which is to create your course. So good luck, and let us know when you launch it. Awesome. So the kind of last thing I want to share with you here is that, like I talked a bit about this thing about reversing the order, that you act first and learn later, instead of the society's whole idea is that you go to school for 100 years and then you're going to go out and do something good for the world, right? But I'm not saying that you should quit your school, right? But I can really recommend you to act first, even though you don't know what you're doing, how it works, etc., etc. And by doing it, you are going to learn. You're going to learn on the job, so to speak. if you're going to think about something, then think about your plan, right? Like, what am I supposed to do? What am I doing? Is what I'm doing correct? Am I on the right path, etc.? Ask yourself the right questions and ignore everything else. Like all the drama of who said this, who said that, Trump this, Hillary that, all that kind of stuff. If it's not part of your mission, if it's not part of your plan, out with it. Learn to say no, right? It's up to you. You're not a victim to your focus. You are the one that chooses how to direct it, right? So your focus is your number one resource, and you only have one of it. And what you do with it, that's gonna determine everything. Okay, so I also want to share with you something that I think is really, really important here, and that's, yes, you can decide that you have this is what you're gonna do, this is your goal. Then you can decide to really start acting, etc. And now you're going for it, you're gonna learn on the job, all that kind of stuff. And this is basically working hard. But if you do not develop your ability to adapt, then you're gonna get stuck, right? So this is the kind of like the third thing that really made a difference for me, is that I was completely, well, as much as I could, ready to adapt, right? So if you think about it, like, I was kind of lucky in a way. I grew up with my dad, and he taught me about evolution at a very early age, right? That was never an issue for me, like trying to understand like the core principles of how the natural world works, right? So basically, evolution in a nutshell is that we are a product of our descendants, of who made it and who didn't make it, and who managed their resources correctly, etc. So we are kind of like a product of a lot of failures in the past and a lot of successes in the past, right? So, but evolution in itself, that concept, that applies everywhere. Like, okay, I'm gonna say something, please don't take it literally, but you can kill yourself, like kill your identity on a day-to-day basis, right? So if your current identity is not working, kill yourself. Please don't take that literally. Just kill your ego, kill your identity, make room for a new you, make room for a new personality, make room for something more improved, better suited for its environment, because that's what evolution is, right? It's not survival of the smartest, it's not survival of the strongest, the survival of the best, the survival of this or the survival of that. It's the survival of the fittest, right? It's the survival of the one that is the most in line with its specific environment, right? So the same thing goes with your personality, your identity, the way you look at the world, your mindset, and your things, right? If you have an email campaign that's not working, kill it, right? Give space to something new, right? So something new can take the resources that old campaign was taking up. Just like if you have some sort of mindset that is consuming your focus, your energy, your time, etc., etc., let that go. Leave space for something new to use that focus, that time, that energy. When it comes down to it, it's all about who gets to use the resources, right? And what does that entity, like that personality, do with the resources? So, this goes through everything. Everything you have, it goes through a constant evolution if you just let it, right? But if something is not working and you're just letting it not die, it's going to keep eating up your resources. So you have to put everything through this frame of evolution, so to speak. Okay, we got some messages. Maria Pasas Acciardo is saying, love what you said about having only one focus and being able to direct it where you want. Thank you. Brandon, do you use any specific techniques for mindset, meditation, or like Tony Robbins? So Brendan, you're in my program, so I would suggest you go to the videos, the inner productivity. I go through the 5 tools that I use, and those are the only tools I use. I don't use anything else. It's basically, I'm not going to go in depth here, but it's, there's 5 of them. They're in my program. So I have done some videos in the past about them. Maybe you can hit me up privately afterwards, and I can maybe share if it doesn't make sense, if there's something you want clarified from the program videos. Great. So yeah, again, I want to say that, you know, once you are ready to give up on who you are, that's when you can actually become yourself, because you can become more aligned with your true values, like the things that are unchanging in you, right? So we already talked about that decision. Like, the decision is value-based. It's based on something that's never going to change once you have it, right? So that's the part of you that's constant, that's never changing. Like your values, pretty much, right? But then everything else just serves the values. So your mindset, how you do things, etc., all that kind of stuff. Just let that go and give room for something else more aligned with your values. And when that whole package is more aligned, I know I'm being a bit woo-woo here, but please bear with me. So when that whole thing is aligned, that's when you are more yourself. And you're never, I promise you, you're never going to reach that as long as you stay with the norm, as long as you try to be normal, or as long as you try to fit in, or as long as you care about what other people think about you, etc., etc. You have to just leave that behind. You can afford that when you have a 9-to-5 job. You can afford to be a part of the norm. You can't afford that when running a business, okay? Most people are not cut out to be business owners. Not because of it's just because of who they are currently, right? They can build a personality that's better suited for that. But you can't afford to stay in that mindset if you're going to do this seriously. If you're seriously going to move away from getting paid for your time, etc., but instead getting paid for the results, the value that you deliver to people, right? So let's see any more. Great. So last thing I want to share with you here is that, okay, let's say you have your decision, you have your goal, you're taking action, and you are adapting as well as you can. But what if you still get stuck? What if you still can't figure it out? Well, in that case, there's really only one more like sensible option for you, and that's to look for help, right? Don't do it alone. Everything I've talked about so far is internal. It's kind of like, do this. It's all about like we are doing on our own and we don't need anyone else. But if you don't take advantage of like all the people around you and all the experiences they have and all that leverage that's there for you to take a part of, right? You're really, really missing out. So ask for help. Look for someone that has achieved what you have achieved, and reach out and don't be afraid to ask for their opinion. So I'm gonna give you the best question that you can ask someone, okay? And it's so rare that people ask this question, yet it's the absolute best thing that you can ask someone, okay? So this is the question. If you were me, what would you do, right? Like, it's such a simple thing, because other people have been where you are. They have gone through that. And all you have to do, because these people are like, maybe they have tried to share their information and met that a lot of people aren't interested, right? And they are stuck in their mindset, etc., etc. So they're just holding all that gold. They're just waiting for someone to come and ask for it. So if you ask someone, hey, I'm really interested in your opinion. I really want to hear what your take on this. If you were in my position, what would you do? What's the first thing that you would do? That question alone is just, it's going to help you out so much. Okay. Emmanuel, thank you very much. Support, it was valuable. Awesome. Great. So, yeah, we've been going for over half an hour. So with that said, what I can help you with, if you want more help with your online course, if you are still stuck and you feel that you've tried all this, or maybe you feel that, yeah, okay, I get the mindset part now, I really want to get into the practical things, the strategies, etc. I want to take a shortcut, right? Or if you're struggling, if you are stuck somewhere, what I can do for you is that I can get on a 30-minute strategy call with you. So let me just put that out here. So basically, the way that it works is that you go to my calendar, You fill out some questions that I need in order to give you better help. You book a time that suits you the best. Then we get on a call. I'll ask you these questions, and then we'll figure out where you're stuck, what you need to do, and I'll share what I would do in your position. So basically what I recommended you to do earlier, right? So that's it. That's how I can help you. So any last questions? Anything else? Oh, and I'm going to put the link to the calendar. I haven't done that yet. So look in the post later on or in the comments, and so you can book your time. Any other questions? Any final questions before we wrap this up? Okay, so Brendan, you asked, do you use any specific techniques for mindset, meditation, or like Tony Robbins? Okay, so I'll go through them fast. Okay, so these are actually in the program. So you can go and look at the videos, but I'm gonna go through them very, very fast here. So the first is the Wheel of Progress. Okay, so there's 5 in total. The first is the Wheel of Progress. That's the whole model of acting. You're setting up a goal in the middle, acting, and then you either learn from your failures or you reach your goals, and then you learn from what happened, and you adjust and you take another action. So just that whole mindset of taking action, etc. Then we have the concepts of leverage and systems. So leverage means that we're looking for the action that gives the most results. So basically, what's the smallest thing that I can do that gives the most results in this situation? Then the third thing is systems, that we think in systems at all times. So remember I said you should try to figure out your plan, and that's because the goal is to stop thinking, right? We want to have a specific set of instructions for ourselves to follow, so we can just focus on following the system rather than trying to figure it all out, right? So create systems in your life. Whatever it is you're trying to achieve, first create a system for how to achieve that, and then test out the system if it works or not. And then the next time you're going to do that, go back to the system and do the whole thing again. Then we have 2 more, and that's modeling and reframing. So we talked about modeling here. Modeling is about not doing it alone, looking at others, being inspired, imitating, seeing what works, what doesn't work, realizing that if you go in someone else's footsteps, you're going to end up where they are, right? So look at someone that is in a place where you would like to be, and just backtrack, check what they're doing, what's working, etc. And if you can, interact with them directly. And the last part is reframing. So reframing is basically understanding that whatever we look at in our lives, we're always looking at it through our interpretation, right? So things are not good or bad, good or evil, or anything like that. Things are completely neutral, right? And then we come with our interpretation. And based on the interpretation, that's what governs if we get sad, lonely, happy, joyful, whatever it is. It's all a story going on in our mind. It has nothing to do with reality, no matter how bad it is, I promise you. And understanding this fact, and understanding that you can't change the world, but you can change your interpretation of it. That's then you can start working on your interpretations of things so that they serve you better. It's more effective. You can reach your goals. You can start changing out your perspectives based on if they're taking you closer to your goals or not. So those are the 5 tools: the Wheel of Progress, leverage, systems, reframing, and modeling. Those are the 5 tools I use. I don't use anything else, actually. Whenever I'm stuck or I need help or whatever it is, I fall back on these 5 things, and I haven't read a personal development book for many, many years, and I don't feel that I'm losing out much on it. I feel that I have my mental toolkit done now. Great. Let's see here. Kingsley saying, notes, best question. If you were me, what would you do? Awesome. Kingsley saying, awesome, David Vidalis. Excellent live. Kingsley, big smiley face. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for watching. If you are a student of the Online Course Secrets Step-by-Step program, we're going to go live in 20 minutes. So in 20 minutes, be ready, bring out your notepads, bring out your best questions. We're going to go through everything, a full hour with me. We're going to do the group coaching. So I'm also going to put the link to the calendar here so you can sign up for the strategy call. Brendan is saying, anyone think of booking a call with David? Definitely go for it. He has helped me so much. Thank you, Brendan. That's a perfect note to end this. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. Please take care, everyone. Brendan, I hope to see you in the group coaching in 20 minutes. Take care. Good luck with your courses this week, and goodbye.